Hi, this is Derek wishing you a happy Halloween. Today is October 31st, 2014. This will be my last video in my 31 Days of Horror review series. To close it, I will be talking about Halloween 2, the 1981 film, not the 2009 Rob Zombie film. I have reviewed this before, but, I figured it's Halloween, okay? So if there's any movie series that's obligatory to watch around this time, it is the Halloween series. It's the namesake of the series, for God's sake. So I figured at least, I did the first Halloween last year. I'll do Halloween 2 this year. I guess for as long as I do these videos, I'll close with a Halloween film. So, if I'm still doing this in 10 years, I'll finally reach Halloween 2, 2009. But anyway, so yeah, today I will be talking about Halloween 2, starring Donald Pleasence, Jamie Lee Curtis, in the follow-up to John Carpenter's classic Halloween. Kind of like what I did last year, I just want to quickly start with my little collection of Halloween 2 on home video. Not as extensive as my Halloween 1 collection, but I'll give you a look, because I have some kind of interesting entries. The most interesting, I think, is my VHS copy. The first version I had on VHS was something like I copied from a rental. Like the original video was like the Halloween pumpkin, but with like a skull coming out of it, which is pretty cool. I like hooked two VCRs up together and had that on a tape. It was horrible quality. Then later on, I finally did buy a VHS version of it, which is a strange version, and I'll show it to you here. This is Halloween 2. As you'll see, it does have the Halloween pumpkin, but with the skull. But like its eyes are glowing green and like beams are shooting out of it. Like, what the fuck is that? You got Donald Pleasence, Jamie Lee Curtis here. Their names here. As you may notice, Jamie Lee Curtis's name is spelt wrong here, which is kind of interesting. As far as I know, this is an official release. This is released through HGV, as you'll see here. They have release rights to Dino De Laurentiis, I think, something like that. But as far as I know, it's an official release. But fuck, they spelled their name wrong. What the fuck? I don't know. But yeah, for the longest time, I had this VHS. This VHS, it says here, came out in 1996 is when this was produced. So for the longest time, this is what I would view on. It's just such a bizarre cover, but I kind of think it's kind of funny and cool. But definitely a unique VHS cover, I think, and nothing really particularly interesting. Just as Halloween 2 there, so nothing super interesting about that. Next, I would own it on DVD, which isn't actually a double feature pack with Halloween 3. So I had to share space here with Halloween 3, which, as you may know from my review, if you've seen my review of Halloween 3, not the hugest fan of it. So we have Halloween 2 here. There's a back. Not super interesting or anything like that, but that'll be that. But then what was really cool, like they keep on releasing, because there are different distribution rights. Like they had the 30th anniversary DVD, or Blu-ray, I should say. That was released for its 30th anniversary, which was 2011. It wasn't that impressive of a set, but then Scream Factory, of course, would release a very cool packaging here, which I had to get. This is awesome. I think this cover is pretty cool. Scream Factory always makes a pretty unique art, like that does kind of give tribute to back in the days when they'd actually like make arts instead of like stupid Photoshop shit. So I think this is a pretty cool cover. I don't know, but this is a pack set, very cool. And of course, most recently, there was the Blu-ray released in the big, huge collector's edition set, Halloween 2, showing the original cover art, which I love. I think this is the best cover of the movie, so it's cool to have that. And the black cased Blu-ray is always kind of cool too. So this is the most recent release I have of Halloween 2. Probably will do me good for some time now. So that's my Halloween 2 collection, as small as it is, but yeah, that's kind of how I've watched the movie over the years, so yeah, whatever. But the movie itself, let's talk about the movie itself. I've gone long enough about the releases. I will still maintain that this is a really good sequel, as good of a sequel as they could possibly make to Halloween, because what we would later find in some of the later sequels in this same series is there are a number of ways that they could have gone about a sequel. With Halloween 3, they did something completely different, kind of making it an anthology, or attempting to make it an anthology series just based around Halloween, with its own separate types of stories that don't have anything to do with Michael Myers. Also with, like Halloween 4, just like a completely different type of story, following different types of characters, loosely related. Like, they bring Loomis back and have Laurie Strode's daughter being the victim. But here's a movie, Halloween 2, quite unique in its presentation, that it extends the first movie. It shows a more of the night he came home, basically, which I always like. Like, if you want to, you can make this a double feature. You can make this a 3-hour epic experience, which, I feel it's fairly seamless in the way they bring it together. Like, obviously, the first movie is better, and there's no real debate about that. But I don't think this movie is for lack of trying. It's like a bonus round, basically. I guess you could say. It literally picks up right where it left off. So they show the little recap. Dr. Loomis shooting Michael Myers. Did he shoot 6 times or 7? I don't know. I try to count every single time. It doesn't quite make sense. You see him falling off the roof. They actually have a stunt man now to actually show that big dramatic stunt, which is cool. You're like, okay, they have a budget now. Always good. And then, of course, he's gone. Michael Myers is gone. Where is he? What's going on? Loomis is in a panic. Call the police, somebody, blah, blah, blah. Guy next door is, oh, is this a joke or something? I've been trick-or-treated to death. You don't know what death is. That opens the movie, and that's a cool opening. I really love that line. You don't know what death is. So that sets it up perfectly. So then we kind of see a new story that does revolve around the hospital and the orderlies and nurses there and their Halloween night. And what's cool is that it does show the aftermath of Michael Myers' killing spree, which in most horror movies, if they don't have the luxury of having a sequel picking up directly where it left off, you don't see that too much. Like, you don't see too much of an aftermath of these types of things, and that's kind of something that I kind of wish we'd see more, because there is a very real type of fear in just say hearing about these types of things. Like, you hear it on the news, like, oh fuck, that Michael Myers guy, that insane lunatic who killed his sister all those years ago, he escaped from the mental ward, and he's done some killing apparently, and he's a few blocks away. Oh my god, that's scary. And so then they do show that one girl who's like, oh my god, that's just a few houses away. Boom, he kills her. So I mean, that's kind of cool, showing the aftermath. And of course, with Charles Cypher's character, finding out that his daughter has died, and seeing her on the stretcher there, realizing that murder, which we obviously did not see any knowledge of or reaction to in the original film, because it wasn't really necessary to the plot. But here, we can add unnecessary things, which is kind of nice, and it is kind of cool because it does kind of bring the Loomis and Sheriff Brackett dynamic full circle. Because in the first film, his main kind of response to Loomis's story, despite everything that he would tell him, was, oh, if this is the real deal, if he is really out there about to do a murdering spree, then damn you for letting him out. And it brings it full circle. There's like, you let him out, you made this happen, blah blah blah. And, Loomis's guilt over it is actually pretty astonishing. Like, cause he's like, I tried. I've been trying to warn everyone, no one's believes me. So now it's too late. So I think that added a little bit more dimension to the Loomis character, because even with all his warning, even with all his little speeches, he does feel guilt for not being able to stop this. Like, he does feel a very personal connection to the path of murder that Michael Myers sets upon. So I mean, I think that brings a little more depth to the character that you wouldn't have been able to see if it weren't for this kind of extension of the first movie, which is pretty cool, I think. So it shows the aftermath of all that. It has a little more room for like this is like a giant prologue almost. Um, but where the movie kind of brings its own type of soap operatic twist to is that this is the movie where we do in fact find out that Michael Myers is Laurie Strode's brother. So he murdered his sister, yet another sister. She was given up for adoption. All this time she had no idea, and then she finds that out through her own dreams, which is kind of interesting. That dream sequence that she has, like where you see the dripping blood. I think that's a pretty cool dream sequence that she has, where she is able to realize it. And of course, we find out like legitimately through Loomis and his colleague character, who does confirm that, like, yeah, she's actually her sister, his sister. So we find that confirmation, which, I again, this is something that I kind of debated in my own review. I'm still not 100% sure because, I mean, the original movie, the fact that Michael Myers has a very loose motive, all he's really trying to do in that movie is recreate his murder, which anyone will do, almost any babysitter, any teenage girl. He's just like this unstoppable. He's like Jaws. He's like the shark from Jaws. He's not thinking. He's just a force that goes on this killing spree, recreating his murder. And Laurie Strode happens to be among one of his potential victims, but she finds the strength within herself to avoid getting butchered, which is cool. Which is why we love Jamie Lee so much, and her iconic performance as the character of Laurie Strode. But here we find that there is a deeper connection, which, while it does maybe perhaps over-motivate Michael Myers, it does perhaps create somewhat of a problem. When you think about it, a twist like that, a connection like that, is almost necessary to make the general plot of this movie work, because essentially the movie is all about Michael Myers now on his path specifically to get Laurie, right? So what is his motivation to do that? What makes her so special? So they almost had to add that. Otherwise, it doesn't quite make sense. Otherwise, we would be stopping to think, which I think, we do at some point, maybe the first time watching this, like, what's so important about Laurie? Why is he going through all this trouble to find her again? And then we do finally find out. So it's almost a necessary twist that they had to make to make the plot make sense. But, that's just my opinion. Whether it works completely well or not is up for debate. But I'm okay with it. I think it works well enough. So regardless of that, I mean, his path of destruction is pretty cool. We get some good kills. It's not as good as what we've seen in the original film. It doesn't have the level of tension. I mean, for all that it's worth, I mean, okay, the very first kill in this movie is that girl who, she hears the old couple screaming from across the street, and it's like, oh, it's the old couple. They're just bickering again. Meanwhile, he steals the old lady's butcher knife and jumps up, kills her with a big jump scare. Like, he just jumps up out of nowhere, which is kind of silly, but whatever. So, I mean, it's not quite as good. And this movie does very literally have a cat in the alleyway scare, which is just the cheapest shit in the world. The security guard who's like, oh, what's going on here? Oh, blah, blah, blah. Oh, a cat! It's kind of stupid. Like, literally, that's the biggest cliche in a horror movie that they do here. Cat in the alleyway. I mean, come on. And then, like, the lights go off and stuff like that. And what's going on here? Is there a killer here? Of course there is. It's a horror movie. So, yeah, I think it's done pretty well. Well enough, I think. And, there's some good kills. Like, I thought, of course they have to have... This is a Halloween movie. In the first one, we had the teenagers having sex and then getting killed. That's basic outline of any of these movies. You got to have that. So they do have that with the orderly and the nurse and in the hot tub. And... well, I mean, that's kind of a cheesy death too. More of like a Friday the 13th kind of death maybe, where he like puts the hot tub on boil, then grabs her and dumps her head in. Pss, pss, pss. I don't know, but it's kind of cool. I don't mind it. And one of the creepiest deaths in this movie is the other nurse where, she sees that the doctor has been killed. Or maybe he's just drunk and passed out. I don't know. That's one of the things about this movie that, you see him in the beginning. He's like, "I need some coffee." Anyway, but like he pops up behind her in a very creepy scene where he takes the needle, puts it right in her temple here. Oh my god, that is fucked up. That's probably like one of the most disturbing deaths in this entire series, to be perfectly honest. That creeps me out. So I thought that was done well, and like in the meanwhile, you see what Michael Myers has done. He's taken, the tubing out so that her blood is spilling all over the floor, which so creepy. But yeah, I mean, I think that's done well. And meanwhile, I think kind of in a similar way where the first movie had, okay, the teen's getting murdered, Laurie, and then on the opposite side of that, Loomis on his investigation. They do that well here too. So it's Loomis once again on his own path, finding a little bit more about Michael Myers. He first they see again a very good aftermath of the townsfolk just completely like rioting, throwing rocks at the Myers house, and it was one of their number has been butchered. This is a wake. I don't know what that means, but I like that line. It's pretty cool. And finding out about the festival of Samhain, and one little detail there, he sees the other cop where they're reminiscing about the murder all those years ago. So 16 years old. Here, you want a cigarette? No. And he takes his lighter, and then they pay very special attention to that because Loomis doesn't smoke. But we need that lighter for later, so that kind of puts the idea in your head, and then it's very similar to the first, where it all kind of leads up to Loomis finding Laurie once again in the hospital, Michael Myers chasing her once again, but it's a well done chase scene at the very end. I think she's pretty much she's drugged up, she's confused, she just found out this horrible secret about her past and about her connection to Michael Myers. And Loomis comes to save the day, and I think it's a very well done chase scene. I would say while it doesn't quite rival the first movie, I think it's well done enough that it's very worthy. I think it's a good chase scene with good music. They amp up the music a little bit more. Feels bigger, like I mentioned in my previous review. So I do like all that. And then of course they have that great scene shooting Michael Myers' eyes out. He's just swiping. Again, he feels like this just force of nature. He has to kill. So they still keep that kind of nature to the character, which I like. Then finally, he takes the lighter, blows him up. Mr. Sandman plays. It's the end of the movie. So, yeah, I think it's well done. There is also another version of this movie which does come with both different Blu-rays from Scream Factory. There's the alternate TV version where they have some different additional scenes, which they're okay. I can't even remember off the top of my head what different scenes there are, but what's one thing that's not too great about it is it is on a DVD, so it's in just standard format. It's not very good quality. Since it is the TV version that's been spliced together, whatever, extended, they have the censored scenes, so it actually runs shorter, even though it's supposedly an extended cut. So that's kind of stupid too. But I mean, it's worth a look if you're curious, But definitely the definitive version is the theatrical version, which we've seen. It is directed by Phil Rosenthal, who did go on to do Halloween H20, and I think some other movies. I know he did the Bird sequel, which was pretty horrible. But let's forget that. His contributions to Halloween are pretty good, and at least John Carpenter and Deborah Hill wrote the movie, so it's has the quality there. So I think it's a worthy sequel. I think it's good to watch. One after the other, if you feel the need to expand your Halloween experience. So sometimes I do. Sometimes the first is just not enough, and I'm aching for more. So I'll throw this on. So yeah, that'll be my second review of Halloween 2. Hope you enjoyed watching this review. I hope you enjoyed all my Halloween reviews this year. Very much enjoyed doing some more reviews this year. Hope you enjoyed watching them. But this will be the last, so all I can really say is I wish you a happy Halloween, and it's time, Michael.